everybody. Welcome to the Cinephiles, the new KARE 11 Plus show where three movie lovers get together to talk all things film. Each episode, we're going to highlight the new releases that we think you should see. We're going to dive into the films that we love and maybe even argue, give a hot take or two. It's going to heat up a little bit, so get the AC turned on. I'm Chris Sarabsky. I'm an anchor and reporter and recovering movie addict at KARE 11 here. I enjoy getting together with Brian Eggert to chat movies in the KARE 11 Saturday morning show, and that was kind of the impetus of this show. We're going to expand it. We're going to go deeper. It's going to be super fun. But now that my kids are growing up, I'm looking forward to rekindling my movie-going experiences. Brian.
My name is Brian Eggert. I am the critic and founder of Deep Focus Review. I've been writing movie reviews and essays of everything from silent movies to new releases, from schlocky horror to art house classics since 2007. You can find my reviews on deepfocusreview.com and Rotten Tomatoes.
Independent Film Critic of the Year, United States of America. Independent Film Critic of the Year.
It's true.
I'm glad you said it because I was going to say it. So.
Okay, well, there you go. Jamie, introduce yourself.
I'm Jamie Rogers. I'm a broadcast director here at KARE 11. If anybody thinks I look familiar, it's because I'm usually yelling at Chris and our other coworkers at the Minnesota State Fair in the KARE 11 barn. But
She
I've
yells
been,
loud.
I do. It's fine.
Gets everybody's attention.
But I've been a freelance entertainment reporter since 2016, focusing on television and movies since 2018 when I started writing for the Playlist.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
I can't wait to work with you on this. I can't wait that people see you, your personality, your deep love for movie, because you're one of the smartest movie people I've ever met. Brian, your record speaks for itself. All right, so here's what we're going to do. For this first block, we're just going to get you to learn a little bit about us and what our favorite movies are. I'll start with me if you don't mind.
Of course.
Is that okay?
I guess.
All right, here are my three favorite movies, which is super, super hard to get to because I don't really do favorites, but if you just throw them out there, these are kind of my three favorites. Godfather Part 2, Shawshank Redemption, and The Revenant. The Godfather Part 2, if you haven't seen it, it speaks for itself. It's widely critically acclaimed as one of the best movies of all time. I like it better than 1 personally because you get the backstory of Vito Corleone. You see him go from a boy to a man and how he sort of gets into the mob. It's shot impeccably well. Big sets too. This is old school New York. The shot of him singing that Italian song with the reflection of the Statue of Liberty in the beginning will make you cry. And by the end, you get to see exactly why the Corleones became the Corleones. Godfather 2 is probably my favorite movie of all time. The Revenant, again, this is a newer film as far as the favorites list, but if there's ever a movie with it's a story of the Messiah figure, right? The person who suffers, who dies, comes back to life, but it has this vengeance aspect to it. So it's like this incredible vengeance story. But this one's connected to nature, and it sort of interlaps how nature is involved with everything and how nature goes through these same processes as man. And the way it's directed and the cinematography of it, it constantly pulls away from battle scenes and pulls away from bloody, dire things and gives you this silence and sound of wavering trees and snowfalls, and it just gave me the feels in a way an action movie or a vengeance movie has never given me the feels. Plus the ending, Glass, which is played by DiCaprio, looks right at he breaks the wall, he looks right at the camera, sort of breathes on the camera. And I don't know, nobody can explain exactly why he does it, but I think he's challenging the audience to overcome anything. As you just witnessed him do, which is like one of the greatest survival stories ever told. It's based on a true story. My last one is Shawshank Redemption. If you haven't seen it, it's on TNT, I think, every other day. And I watch it every other day. It's one of those I can't turn off. But again, this is also a Messiah story of a man who's persecuted, goes to prison. You get this wonderful mid-20th century prison feel there. You see the racism, you see the prejudice, you see the horrors that he has to go through there. He is used by the prison staff because of his brains, and eventually, through a number of miracles, finds his own freedom, essentially. And I think this movie, every time I watch it, I learn something new. I feel like there are Easter eggs throughout all of it. Again, a Messiah figure who is rebirthed, and it's just one of my favorite movies of all time. That's where I'm at. Who wants to go next?
Well, I think we need to acknowledge that you have a Messiah figure in 2 out of the 3 that you listed.
Well, it's the greatest story ever
every
told.
time we talk, it's the Matrix and the Messiah story, and you bring that into a lot of things, and I love it.
I mean,
because
Die
it's
Hard's
just
almost
the hero
that.
journey.
That's
Die Hard.
Well, that's the story.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
But that's the arc, right? You somebody who's innocent, who is devastated in the worst possible way that a human can imagine, right? Persecuted, And through benevolent acts and through miracles, they come back. This is the greatest story ever told, in my opinion, and these movies exemplify that.
All right.
point.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your take on Revenant. I don't know. You put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great take. Yeah.
Well, like I told you, if I ever walk out of a movie and I feel weird, like I feel drugged out or I feel
Yeah.
like I'm in a different zone, that movie worked. And I
Yeah.
have to figure out why it worked.
Absolutely.
So then you deep dive and you go online, see what people are
Absolutely, yeah.
saying and read your stuff and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, what are your three favorite? I'm really curious what yours are.
Yeah.
Because are you going to go, big Hollywood stuff or are you going to go obscure stuff? And
Mine are, I think, kind of obscure. I picked, one favorite movie is Brazil, but really these are movies to get to know me by. So Brazil came out in 1985. It's got Robert De Niro, Jonathan Pryce, Ian Holm, and it's a dystopian comedy directed by Terry Gilliam, who did Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and he's a regular Monty Python troupe. So it takes place in this Orwellian world where a guy who works for the government doesn't really like his job, and he takes these promotions that he doesn't want because he's been dreaming about this woman, and he sees her in the flesh, and he didn't even think that she was real. And so he wants to pursue her and figure out who she is, and really gets oppressed by this very relatable, all too common for today world. And it's the kind of story where the world is so oppressive that not even your dreams are a safe place. It's a very dark film. It doesn't end well. It's got a very dark ending. And in fact, there's this amazing behind-the-scenes story about how it was made and how the studio fought with Terry Gilliam to get his version into theaters.
which is common, right?
Right. And they ended up getting, Gilliam got his version into theaters, and it's a real success story. And
Did it do well at the box office?
it didn't do well at the box office.
I've never
no.
seen it. I've never even heard of it.
It's amazing. You should check it
it's
out.
De Niro.
And Robert De Niro's a small role in it. What I love about it is that it's so overstuffed. This is maybe why I picked it, because I love an overstuffed movie. I love a sensory overload, and I love that a movie can feel chaotic, but then there's an order to the chaos. And Brazil is the ultimate example of that.
Interesting.
The next movie I think is more representative of my taste for older movies or international films, and that's Seven Samurai. This came out in 1954. It's a 3.5-hour epic, and it was remade into The Magnificent Seven. Common story actually based on a true story about a group of farmers who hire a bunch of samurai to protect their village from raiders. The difference is that, yes, this is a big epic. It's an action movie, but there's also comedy to it. There's romance to it. And then there's a philosophy underneath it, too. None of the farmers are exactly like these, nice people that they're protecting. None of the samurais are heroes. They're all very in the gray area. And so it's much more complicated than just, defend.
Good guys take on bad guys.
Right.
more human.
It's all in that gray area. That, and it's just technically beautifully well made. For me, films are like on a spectrum. There's art house on one end, and that's the artiest art film that you can get. And then on the other end is the most entertaining film that you can get, like pure commercial cinema. And anywhere on that spectrum can be a great movie. And you can be a great, commercial movie, you can be a great art house movie. And Seven Samurai is the perfect blend of both.
Wow.
You don't get that very often, but it's like something that it's just a full meal.
I feel like Pulp Fiction did that for me.
Totally. That's another great example. Yeah.
All right, what's your third one?
Last one is The Fly.
Okay, go ahead.
So, knowing that you two don't love horror movies, I wanted to pick a horror movie. And The Fly is made by actually my favorite living director, David Cronenberg. And he's a guy who will take a very emotional idea or psychological idea and find a physical way to explore that. So here's a movie about really about getting older and about changing and about looking in the mirror and realizing, oh my gosh, I have gray hair now, or geez, where did this mole come from? And he finds a way to explore that within a narrative. So Jeff Goldblum is a guy who, is trying to build a teleporter because he's got motion sickness problems. He ends up splicing his DNA with the fly and slowly disintegrates. And his body is changing. And yeah, it's about the fear of getting older. And I love that, horror films kind of get a bad rap, unfortunately. But they can do things like this that are really getting to our existential problems, and this movie's all about the mind-body dichotomy and your body not reacting in a way that your mind does.
Interesting. I saw this movie when I was a kid, and I just remember all the goo and the breaking sounds and the snaps and how much he
Absolutely.
develops into a fly.
Yeah.
And it was a good love story there, but I never thought of it now as you look back as it's the story of you getting older and not being comfortable with those changes.
He's great at taking these really gooey ideas, but but again, there's a philosophy behind him,
Cool.
and I love that.
Great triplet.
Yeah.
What about you, Jamie?
Well, before we move on to mine, I want to say I like that The Fly is in that context of getting older because as someone who does not like horror movies, I tend to not watch them, but that actually sounds intriguing. And I've noticed that a lot of horror movies kind of go on with what's going on in the world. So like after 9/11, there was a lot of people like coming into your personal space, not feeling comfortable in your own home,
Yeah.
those types of movies. Recently with The First Omen and Immaculate last year, there was a lot of talk with women's bodily autonomy, and it's reflective of what's going on.
Or Get Out.
Yeah,
Is it
Get
dealing
Out.
with racism and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think that one, The Fly, is one that kind of transcends not just the time, but that's something that everybody can relate to no matter when they watch it.
Absolutely.
Fascinating that two of your favorite movies came out of the 80s.
Yeah, I was self-conscious about that. I was like, should I pick these two? But I think they're
No
I think
need
they're
to be self-conscious.
Oh, yeah. No need here.
It's honest.
Not on the Cinephile set.
Yeah, and you don't get to be self-conscious about that because I'm not going to be self-conscious about not being able to make a decision.
All right. Hit us.
I had to do 4 because I could not decide.
Okay, fair
the
enough.
first one is The Social Network,
Interesting.
which I'm sure everyone has seen. 2010, David Fincher, Jesse Eisenberg, Andrew Garfield. It's the story of Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook, but I like how the story is told because the more you watch it, the more you pick up on. I was telling Brian the other day that one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when I believe they had just gotten the notice of being sued by the Winklevoss twins, and Jesse Eisenberg's character Mark has not told Eduardo, Andrew Garfield's character, about this notice. Mark's like, oh, it's nothing to worry about, don't worry about it, it's fine, we're not going to talk about it. And as they're in Mark's dorm room, Andrew Garfield goes to the fridge, grabs 2 beers, grabs one for him, one for Mark Zuckerberg, and then Jesse Eisenberg goes to the fridge, grabs one for him, and Eduardo is just like, well, now I have 2. I guess I'll
Right.
just
He didn't
set
pick
this.
up on that.
Yeah,
He
and
just-
so it's just like the story of Mark being selfish and Eduardo not being selfish, but there's a lot of things that you don't.
I was just going to ask you about the very beginning of that movie. He's breaking up with his girlfriend at the
Yeah.
table.
That's
Is that
that's such a great scene.
Is that
It
another
is.
thing where it's just showing you that this guy is singularly focused? He's focused on himself. If something makes sense or it doesn't. If it makes sense, he does it. If it doesn't make sense, the relationship's over. And I don't understand why you don't see that. He basically just explained
and
it.
he's like, I don't really care about how you feel.
Right.
This conversation isn't really a conversation. I'm just telling you this is how it is.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's a great movie.
So.
What's your next
yeah.
one?
The next one is Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese.
Killer.
It's so good. I literally don't even know what to say about it because I'm sure everybody has seen it, and it's just old school New York, like you said, Chris, with the Godfather Part 2, and the You Talking to Me
Are
is
you-
just like everybody, whether you've seen the movie or not, you know that that's Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver. And it's political, it's emotional, there's a love story, there's a mental health story, and I just feel like a lot of people can relate to that. So I just thought it was really, really good movie.
There's
That's as
so
art
many.
house as it gets, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
There are so many angles you can come at that movie from. Political, whatever. I mean, it's one of those many layered movies where it just, again, it's a full meal and you can take it apart from so many angles.
Almost
I
like
love
Joker.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I love the memes about Taxi Driver because Martin Scorsese has thicker eyebrows, and the internet being the internet.
Thicker?
Well, I'm just saying, the internet being the internet has been like,
You could braid 'em.
oh, he took his eyebrow and put it on Robert De Niro's head for the mohawk.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
Sure, guys, we'll go with that.
Yeah, you want to see a person become crazy, watch Taxi Driver. That's
Yes,
incredible.
absolutely.
All right, what are your other
The-
2?
The other 2, because I could not decide, Eddie the Eagle from 2016,
No way.
Chasing Liberty from 2004. Chasing Liberty is a rom-com, Mandy Moore and Matthew Good. She is the president's daughter. The president's played by Mark Harmon. They're going on a trip to Europe, and essentially she wants freedom. Her dad, the president, doesn't really want to give her the freedom, so he fakes it And so she thinks she's run away, she thinks she's got away, but there's a Secret Service agent with her the whole time. And they fall in love, not to like spoil anything, but it's been 20 years. And it was one of the, I'm just saying, but it's one of my favorite movies because it was one of the first movies I saw in the theater with my older sister. Because I'm sure we saw Bug's Life and younger movies like that when we were children, but it's like one of my first distinct memories of we went to Applebee's, we went to the movies. I felt kind of uncomfortable because there's a sex scene in it and I was 11 and
Sure.
I probably shouldn't have been watching that movie, but it gives me a nostalgic feeling. And so it's one of my feel-good movies that I always go back to.
I think everybody has an awkward nostalgia to the first sex scene they saw with their parents or grandparents. Every human has that. Mine was Mine was Goldeneye.
Oh gosh.
Where Xenia Onatopp
yeah,
is
right.
breaking men with her legs, and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, how's it going? How's things doing? Thanks for taking me to the theater on a weekday. It's awesome." So, anyway,
Amazing. Anyway, moving on. Eddie the Eagle.
Eddie the Eagle.
Eddie the Eagle is 2016. It's directed by Dexter Fletcher, who is a wonderful director. He did,
Bohemian Rhapsody.
yeah,
right?
Bohemian. Well, he picked up Bohemian Rhapsody after the first director got let go. But he did Rocket Man most recently, also with Taron Egerton.
Killer.
This one is produced by Matthew Vaughn, starring Hugh Jackman and Taron Egerton. And I really like this movie. I like the story behind the movie because Taron was cast in Kingsman, having very little movie experience,
He's a
acting
star.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had done The Smoke on the BBC and The Testament of Youth, which is a very good historical film if you haven't seen it. But he was basically a newbie, and Matthew Vaughn cast him in Kingsman. He knocks it out of the park, and then they end up having a very good working relationship, and they go on to Eddie the Eagle. It's about the ski jumper in the Calgary Olympics who the British Olympic Association did not want him on the Olympic ski team. So he was like, okay, I'm gonna try ski jumping. And they tried everything they possibly could to make him not perform at the Olympics or participate in the Olympics. And it's just like a feel-good underdog story,
Defied
kind of
the
like
odds.
Cool Runnings. I mean, same Olympics. And the person who did the score for Kingsman also did the score for Eddie the Eagle.
Cool.
Dexter Fletcher was involved in Eddie the Eagle. He then did Rocket Man, also produced by Matthew Vaughn, also starring Taron Egerton. Elton John was in Kingsman 2. So there's just like a spider web of interconnected
Yeah.
relationships that I really enjoy.
Cool. Good. This is great. I feel like I know you guys really well now. I think you're doing really well. Very good. All right, coming up. An awkward suburban bromance and the return of Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning are among the major films hitting theaters this weekend. Find out which ones are worth your time. We got a whole new rating system we hope you appreciate. Stick with us. Welcome back to the Cinephiles, everybody. All right, we're talking about the movies we think you should be seeing. Maybe you should definitely be seeing. We'll see. We're going to rate them. Brian's got a new rating system. But first up, we're talking Friendship. It's an A24 comedy starring Tim Robinson of Netflix. I Think You Should Leave. Let's take a look.
If your game is on, you can call blue. If your love is strong,
I can see the future. It's full of pals. I'm on the edge of life, and the view is gorgeous.
Look, we had a couple of really nice hangs, but I think it best that we go our separate ways. I don't wish to continue this.
Okay, Brian, what's going on here?
So this is from starring Tim Robinson from Netflix's I Think You Should Leave. And what I love about this movie, it's absolutely one of the funniest movies of the year. It's doing kind of a slow rollout in May. A24 is releasing it. It opened in New York and LA on the 9th and is kind of slowly expanding throughout May. And most comedies, I think, are, they're not really interested in aesthetics. It's really just point and shoot, and the minimum requirement is just to make you laugh. And this one, yeah, it's going to make you laugh. But Andrew DeYoung, the writer-director who wrote this for Tim Robinson, really cares about how his film looks. It's a dark concept about obsession, about a guy who's married and has a teenage son, but doesn't really have any male friendships. That's frankly something I could relate to. But Tim Robinson ends up kind of latching on to his neighbor, played by Paul Rudd. And if you've if you're familiar with Tim Robinson, he just takes everything to the nth degree.
Always goes from 1 to 10.
Right, and he commits to it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like he never backs away, and that's kind of what this movie is. It's sort of like Cable Guy or Fatal Attraction, but more of a comedy. So not only is it just a hilarious comedy, and tears streaming down my face comedy, couldn't hear the next joke because I was laughing too hard at the last joke.
Amazing.
Just totally forgot to
Sign
take
me up.
notes during because I was just laughing too hard at the
Okay,
movie.
that's a good thing.
That's a
Yes.
good sign. But it's also I don't have to feel guilty about this because it's so well made.
What was your rating?
This is a must see it. You
A
have-
must see right out of the
yeah,
gate.
absolutely do not miss it.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Interesting.
Jamie, did you see it?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay, what
but-
are your hopes and dreams about it?
Well, now I don't know because he just really blew my expectations out of the water with saying that you couldn't take notes and you were cry laughing. Like, sign me up. I love a comedy like that.
Yeah, and Paul Rudd, I'll watch anything Paul Rudd's in. He just makes me feel good as a human.
Yes.
But Tim, is it Robinson?
Tim Robinson, yeah.
He's grown on me. I didn't like his style at first because it seemed like, okay, we get it. You're going to the nth degree with everything. But it's growing on me, man. It's a slow burn, and I'll watch. If that's the style, I'm in.
Yeah, and, on his sketch comedy shows, he's just you don't really get a time to build a character with him. This is like he builds a character. You feel sympathetic for him. You understand his yearning for a friendship, but also he just kind of loses it and kind of goes out of control.
And if you were kind of on the fence with Tim Robinson, he didn't write it. Andrew DeYoung wrote it, but he wrote it for Tim Robinson.
Okay.
So it's like definitely Tim
Styled in.
style, but probably not as extreme as you're used to.
Yeah.
All right, next movie is Fight or Flight. Let's take a look.
What am I doing here, Catherine?
We're tracking a high-value target.
The ghost is a black hat terrorist.
Deliver the mark to us alive, you get your life back.
We have a big problem. There isn't a country in the Western Hemisphere that doesn't have a bounty on the ghost's head.
Are you telling me that plane is full of killers?
Rough night?
Ooh, you had me there. Oh, what a kick. Jeez, Josh Garnett just got smoked. All right, what's going on here?
So this is an action movie, obviously, as you can tell, starring Josh Hartnett, and I'm going to butcher her name, and I don't mean to, but I believe it's Charithra Chandran.
Chandra? Yeah.
She was in Bridgerton, so a lot of the female audience or younger audience might know who she is. I, no offense, wouldn't expect you necessarily, Chris, to know who she is.
What do you mean?
Well, I doubt that you watched Bridgerton, and if you
What do you
did,
mean?
I owe you. I don't know what I owe you if
I was
you
going
have
to try
watched
to hold that
Bridgerton.
against you, but you're right. So
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
But this is James Madigan. It's kind of absurd in a way. It's not for me necessarily.
Okay.
I did have a little bit of fun initially because I was like, what am I getting myself into? In the first 10 minutes, there are 20 F-bombs.
Oh, jeez.
I counted them because I was like, what is happening? Like, why is there so many swear words happening?
outrageous.
What did I get myself into? But it's kind of, if you can imagine the Kingsman, not to always bring up Kingsman, but the Kingsman sequence in the church where Colin Firth is just annihilating everyone.
Yes.
It's that vibe.
Oh, okay. So it's over the top gore and
Yes.
absurdity.
Absolutely.
What was your take?
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. It was entertaining. There's not much in terms of plot. It's really just like a fight for about an hour in, and then at some point it just goes absurd and chainsaws and tons of blood and there's some toad venom that it has like a surreal quality to it where Josh Hartnett is hallucinating and there's
DMT.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
much.
And then there's kind of a half-hearted theme about child labor and like this is added on. It's kind of a jumble.
There's
but,
like a morals dilemma.
But I'd say, if you're bored on a matinee or you're bored some night at like 10 o'clock and you want to put on something to keep your mind active.
Or like in a
give
month if you're at home and you want to stream it, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Good pandemic film.
Give it a try. Yeah.
That's the grading. Good for the pandemic. What's your rating?
I would say try it.
I'll try it. Okay. The final one is the one we wanted to wrap this whole show around, and it is the new Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning.
It's been a long time, Ethan.
Your mission, should you choose to accept. Everything you were
done has come to this.
All right, we all know the series, and this may be the final film. We don't know. This is 8, right?
Yeah.
This is the 8th film in the Mission Impossible series. The Final Reckoning is part 2 of this Back 2 series of 7 and 8. You guys went to the premiere yesterday.
Yeah,
didn't
we did go to a
you?
press screening last night.
How was that?
It was IMAX, so it was
can't complain
intense
about the presentation.
and- yeah, it was very good.
All right. Well, before you give me your review, know this. What was the one before it? Day of Reckoning or what was it called?
Dead Reckoning.
Dead
Part
Reckoning.
One.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Blanking out. Dead Reckoning is my favorite Mission Impossible movie.
Which is an insane take to me.
Okay.
No offense.
It is my favorite Mission Impossible movie. I'm a little insane. I've been waiting for this.
Fair.
Spoiler alerts are coming. So if you haven't seen it, right, just
We'll try not to spoil any
Yeah,
major
we'll
plot.
try.
hang with us. How did it go?
Brian?
So
Oh boy.
let's go back to 1996. There's a great
go.
moment in the original Mission Impossible where Ethan Hunt is talking to John Voight's character Jim Phelps, and he at this point thinks he's dead, and he sees him and he can't believe he's alive, and so Jim Phelps is explaining where he's been, and the director Brian De Palma shows you images, and these images are what's going on in Ethan Hunt's head, and basically he's seeing through Jim
putting it
Phelps'
together.
slides,
Yep.
right? Brian De Palma trusts the audience to parse that out and juxtapose these images against what is being told. This movie does not do that. This movie, I think, is talking down to its audience. The first 30 minutes, I would say, there are so many flashbacks to things that have happened throughout the series. There are so many scenes of repeated dialogue. There are moments where we're talking about some device, and then 5 minutes later, we're talking about it again, and you're literally showing us a scene that happened 5 minutes ago again, just to reiterate the point. I just think the script is maybe not as tight as some of the other Christopher McQuarrie Mission Impossible movies.
Okay.
So all the plot, despite its relevance with an AI threat that is, threatening global nuclear war, and that's very relatable, not the nuclear war part, but the AI part.
Right.
All that stuff just kind of fades into the ether, and then there are these great sequences. There's an amazing sequence at the submarine that if you've ever seen The Abyss, very, very reminiscent of that.
It was literally on TV 2 nights ago.
Great movie. There's a great scene with a biplane that is like awe-inspiring. The action is outstanding, but I think the script and the story could use a little refining. It just felt a little like it was talking down to us, and I don't like to be talked down to.
Okay. Your thoughts?
I feel like it was very nostalgic for the audiences who have seen the whole series of Mission Impossible movies. I think that they were trying to go for like a Top Gun Maverick sort of vibe when you say that they're talking down to the audience, because I felt like Top Gun Maverick, you went in, you didn't have to see Top Gun to know what was going on.
Right.
And I think they're expecting people who haven't seen any of the Mission Impossibles to come into this one and watch it. I was sweating for 2 hours because there's a lot of anxiety happening in the movie. So that's my biggest takeaway is.
But you
Be
agree with
prepared.
them? You thought they were talking down to the audience
A
by having to
little bit.
remind you of all this stuff? And
Yeah,
that's
I
kind of
think-
annoying when you've been through it throughout a series.
Yeah, I think they were trying to play with the audience's emotion a little bit. Like, oh, we've been marketing this as the last one.
You have to push them into
So-
it.
And they're trying to
Here we
wrap it
are.
all up with like grandiose statements and like about it is written, and I don't know. I just think the villain in this one, the Gabriel from Dead Reckoning, was not a very strong villain. They just don't wrap up some of these plot lines that they dealt with. But the action and the presentation, like, see it in the theater. I'm recommending
Yes,
that you see it in the
absolutely.
theater. I just don't think it's as good as the others.
So the final rating?
See it. This
See
is
it.
a definite
Yeah,
see it.
I would agree.
Interesting. All right. Before we go, though, we have a homework assignment. This is what we're going to do on this show because we feel Cinephiles is like a club, right? We like to watch movies, we like to talk about them. And Brian has picked a special film out that sort of inspired the Mission Impossible series, and you're going to ask us to watch it, yeah?
Right. So this is kind of my gift to you. This is a Cine gift. I want everybody to watch North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock. It's a film that definitely influenced the Mission Impossible series, and I think people will love it, and we'll talk about it next time.
Awesome. For Jamie, for Brian, I'm Chris. We appreciate you joining us. This is the start of a beautiful thing, man. We're so We cannot wait to get your comments on social media so we can talk about this together. Appreciate you joining us. It's been The Cinephiles.